Here we are. Welcome, Rob Glenn of Root Design in Chicago, my favorite city in the whole wide world. And
Mine too.
yes, it's a great place. We love it. And we got a ton to talk about. Like post CES and post our little class on prompting last week.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff to talk about on top of just announcements that came. And I think one of the biggest ones is Trump, in his attempt to move manufacturing back to the United States, signed a huge deal with TSMC, the chip designer, which is part of the Chips and Science Act anyways. He just put more money
Mhm.
into it. And that's, by the way, what he wants all this defense money for. Let me be abundantly clear. The Defense Department is going to backfill all of these data centers that are being built everywhere and the chip fabs. So because they want a Chips and Science Act on steroids now. They've realized that they not only need, the Republicans wouldn't vote for more funding on the Chips and Science Act. So the Democrats got the best they could and passed that. It needed to be more, though. So now the Republicans realize that, and they know that they can't tuck their tail between their legs and go, you know what, the Democrats were right. We need more money for this, not less. And so what they're doing is they're shoveling that money onto the defense budget. This is for national security. Everything falls under national security. So so they struck this deal. Well, now that means we're on the hook for Taiwan. This is not just we're making a deal with NVIDIA. TSMC's, corporate headquarters and everything is in Taiwan. We have it, and they are, the Taiwanese government has a stake in it, not like China does with like 51%, but that's a protection racket for us with Taiwan now, which is really does. I mean, China was livid about this deal, more angry about it than almost anything we've seen this side of Soloviev bitching about us giving stingers to fucking Ukraine. So this is about the bubble probably got extended if there ever was one, and I don't believe there is. But the AI bubble got extended a little bit because the American taxpayer is going to be paying, $500 billion to make sure that it extends in this sort of space race against China.
Yeah. Well, I mean, effectively, the way that Trump has funded the things that he wants to fund that are not law, because Congress has just basically went to another place and put their head in the sand,
Right.
is through emergency defense, like national security. Like that's his go-to place for all these things, basically, so that the executive branch can do whatever they want effectively.
Right.
And I'm not sure that they think past the second step or the third step when it comes to what you just said.
Right. I don't either.
The,
I don't think they're aware of the can of worms that this opens up.
yeah, and that's sort of I think that by putting, like, we have to stop putting normal logic to try to explain what we're seeing, because
I agree.
it just
Yeah.
isn't there. Like, we
Yes.
have to stop doing that. And almost all coverage of all things, it's this sort of reactionary, like, this doesn't make sense. I don't
Right.
understand what is going on. And like, it's because we keep trying to apply logic or keep trying to apply history, even history, just, recent history, in terms of like what a normal politician or a normal president would have done.
Yeah.
And we're completely out of that territory. And the motivation is like, we have to stop putting any motivation on it, possibly, other
that's
than
what
just like enriching myself
but
or
believe me,
themselves.
I understand. I don't attribute that as a thought that Trump and his people had. I think they blew right past that, not realizing the geopolitical implications of what they were doing. On a certain degree, I'm for it because Taiwan deserves to be protected. But they are they're like backdooring their way into protecting both Ukraine because of minerals and Taiwan because of chips. And these things that
Yeah.
Democrats have wanted and been aware of and had that logic about, like, there's both something in it for them and something in it for us. It is a mutually beneficial agreement to protect Ukraine and to protect Taiwan. The Republicans are either they're accidentally falling into this, and just coming to the same conclusions that Democrats do because of the resources that are there. They're so hungry for those resources, they don't give a shit about the secondary impact that it is good for Taiwan or it is good for Ukraine. They just don't give a fuck. As long as it's good for me, I don't care if it's good for you or whatever. Which means, by the way, that eventually it could be bad for you, right? It could be like a
I mean,
mistake
all
if you don't
these
look far
things,
enough. Yeah,
yeah, all of these things easily jump back and forth between being great and being bad.
right.
And there, if there's no sort of like moral direction to it, I guess moral or like foundational like planning, if you will, then you're always going to be caught in that. I think that maybe in the case of what you're talking about now, the difficulty is the sort of faltering of someone who's like got the people in the US that have directionality to their thought.
Yeah,
I think that they're struggling to say something like what you just said. Like
yeah,
these guys have no direction. But today they're whatever choice they made helps my logic. So let's just present it as such. I think your first guest, the major, has a
yeah.
really good way of doing that. Like
Yes,
he obviously has a solid direction in what he thinks should happen, what he thinks about these things. They're sort of based in a foundation that exists inside of himself. And I hear him constantly saying, "Here's what I see happening,"
hmm,
and he puts choices out. He did a really interesting thing today. I was listening where
hmm,
he was talking about Republicans versus MAGA. Like he actually framed it in the sense of like, MAGA, you are obviously doing this, and that thing is sort of the left's like
hmm.
exasperation, like the sort of hypocrisy things that we talk about. Like they're obviously doing this, but he then said, Republicans, you have a choice, and by doing that, he like basically created an out, like he
Right,
created an off ramp. And so Republicans, you have a choice. You can either like go down that road that these crazy people are going down,
right,
or you can be a normal Republican. He's not saying be a Democrat. He's saying be a normal Republican.
right.
And that's the off ramp. So my point is to say that, you know, whether like whatever your reasoning is to back Taiwan in this case,
Yeah,
um, in this moment in time, it's fascinating, I suppose, that they're one of the largest companies, the most sort of impactful companies that is based in Taiwan,
right.
being that it's chip based and it's literally like the water of AI, right?
Yeah,
Like
right. It is the
without
hydration.
it,
You can only live
it
a
doesn't
couple of days
exist. It's
without
the
it. Right.
oxygen. It's the
Yes.
oxygen of AI, literally. Like,
Yeah.
it's funny that becomes the focal point that then brings them back because the best I can say of the administration's feelings about AI is simply all the money's going there. We want all the money here. Let's get on board with AI and make it easy for all that to happen so that we
Right.
can basically say we're the most successful country in the world and, be damned all of the possible like gray areas of any of
Hmm.
that stuff or the gray areas of AI and all that
Right.
stuff. So
Right. Right. So
I saw an article about the oil money being deposited in Qatar
yeah,
from Venezuela.
sure.
Like, I mean, therein lies like these sort of like deals being made. Uh, they're
So
like
that
multi-pronged. Like they're really like, how can we benefit? And then once we've benefited, how can we brag that we did it for America,
right.
even though it was for us, but it's really for you, right? Like
Qatar
what?
also did the transfer of funds, like $2 billion transfer of funds using Trump's meme coin, so that he could get a slice of it. So this seems like another
Yeah,
opportunity for that, where they moved it through those banks. So they'll transfer it to an American bank using this meme coin as the transfer protocol, and Trump will get to take a fee off the top of it. That in and of itself will dwarf whatever Halliburton made in the Iraq War. ironically enough. We were talking about in the first hour. And that's got to be, that does not fall under whatever the broadest scope of the SCOTUS's idea of a president cannot commit a crime because he's doing what he's doing for national security. There is no meaningful reason for that kind of corruption. They're just not going to be able to find a window for that. They just aren't.
Yeah. Well, but in World 2 here, where
yes,
they think like the same thing with the Epstein files. So if the president is weakened by a domestic problem, then that is harmful to the national security of the United States. Thus,
right.
We can't have any of that happen, right? Because then that's a national security problem. Because they've constructed that logic in their minds, all of this is fine. We have to build up the man because the man is our conduit to strength as a nation, right? Like, and like, I don't know that you can break that. You have to work through it, work around it, or work in parallel to it, showing a better way. Like, there's just no convincing people that think that that's okay, that it's not okay. They've already bought in.
Right. But I do think there is a backing down because it goes with the sales pitch that Trump gave his own people. That he sold them this idea that he would be the anti-war or no more forever wars. He wouldn't, get us involved in these things. He wouldn't put soldiers in harm's way and all that kind of stuff. And he's had injured soldiers in Venezuela who, this was an action that did not need to be taken. Most people are agree with that on our side, but also on the right. Like, nobody has to think Maduro was a good guy any more than we think Iraq was a mistake, even though Saddam Hussein was a terrible person. That's not the argument. The argument is are there people in this world that the world would be better off without? Of course there are. The question is, what's the benefit of doing something about it? Or letting somebody else do something about it, namely the people inside their own country, but also just, what's the potential blowback? If you do this, what's the next thing that can come back? And I don't think they're thinking, I think you're right, I don't think they're thinking past the end of their nose on any of this shit. I think they're just going for these resources now, and he wants his piece of it because he's basically checked out.
Yeah, I mean, the logic, like, again, using proper logic, the moment after they kidnapped Maduro, they would say, you guys there in Venezuela, you really need to put the opposition party in power because they won the election. That would make a lot of sense. Obviously, that didn't happen, to the point even where I forget the woman's name, but she brings the Nobel Peace Prize to Trump, which she basically won in some sort of like weird thing.
The Nobel Participation Trophy, you mean?
Yeah, well, but my point is that the entire time, like, in her mind, she's like, well, I have this thing of value. If I go and pay the penance, I guess, or pay this guy off, then maybe he'll do the thing that we wanted him to do in the beginning, which is you put our opposition party in power. Like, that makes total sense. But the whole thing was bullshit to begin with. He just wants the fucking trophy. That's all it is. And we have to start realizing that that's all it is. He just wants the plaque, and he wants to put it up on the wall, and he's out. He's like, I'm done with you now. And that's really hard to wrap your head around. I know, because I
who lives like that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, what doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is. But the out, I don't see. To me, the out is like Major Ojeda kind of starts to frame an interesting out. Like, the out isn't like you're gonna say you're wrong. You're gonna get your one-uppance. Like, the fuck around and find out stuff. I get frustrates me too, because like it's not the end. Like, the end is that's the people that are so deep into the con, they need a way out, and if you don't give them the way out, they're going to find their own way out.
Mm-hmm.
And so the out, like you have to like articulate an out that like uh that gives them cover, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
uh and I don't think that that's a losing direction personally. Like I think like we have our neighbors, like these are our neighbors, like
Right.
everybody has a neighbor, and we need to live in this world together in this
Yes.
country, and the path towards you know, like true patriotism, what our version of patriotism is, where we all get along and we deal with each other and we put
Yeah.
up with all of our differences, is that we have to figure out a way to like make it okay that they fucked up. Like, I mean, I love the way Major Ojeda talks about it. Like, he doesn't give anybody any outs. Like, he's like this stuff is fucking crazy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the guy that got interviewed in Minnesota, he just like, this is fucking crazy, you know? Like, and
Yeah.
everybody's like, why do you keep? I heard something. Was it Kinzinger? You got
Uh-huh.
to stop saying fucking. It's like, if now's not this time to be
Worry
ripping
about
off f
language.
bombs,
Right. Yeah.
like then what is it? What
What,
is the
right.
time, right?
Right. Exactly. Uh,
um, anyway, so you know, with like AI is a train and it's going down the tracks,
mm-hmm.
and we've talked about the bubble in the sense of like uh the reason I don't think it's a bubble is because the 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 component that makes it possible, which is the chip, that's the start of this conversation,
Yeah.
it can do more than just AI.
Yes.
It's also,
It
so
does
it's also
everything
cloud.
else.
It's
Yeah.
everything else. It's cloud computing. It's crypto. It's blockchain. And crypto's kind of got these negative terms, but blockchain is a
Mm-hmm.
technology that is going to be part of our lives
Mm-hmm.
in a good way as well for a long time. So because it's so like the future is going to run through these things somehow,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's why I don't think it's a bubble, because even
Right.
if AI does collapse, which I don't think it will, there's other things, all of this effectively capital, you know,
Mm-hmm.
all of the, it's like all of the, when telephones stopped being used, when cell phones came out, what do you do with the telephone lines? Like they're all still out there, but they're not
Right.
being used. It's not the same way with
Mm-mm.
these chips. If AI went away, there's plenty other things to pump through them that
Yeah.
is going to be useful in life, right?
Yeah, just like there used to be this thing where you could sign up and have your computer used by like science labs that need to crunch numbers and they didn't
Yeah.
have enough computers to do it. So you could sign up on this program and it would basically hand over the computing power of your computer, so it would be like a big network
Like
of number.
distributed computing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And in the case of if AI is not even a factor of it, if you're talking about the kind of science, like the kind of computations you need to solve disease and solve space exploration and deep sea exploration and figure out replacement minerals for rare earths and that kind of stuff, that's going to require a lot of computation, and those things can do that as well. That AI is just helping them do it more in a more directed sense. But it's still going to be useful no matter what. And it is a physical thing that it is at the root of all this. And that I think is going to be the big,
Meaning the chip is the physical thing.
yes, yes. That the chips,
Yeah.
they're going to continue to make these and they're going to be faster because they will be capable of more, which means, again, it's deflationary towards the amount of computational power that the average person has. Because if Google has a quantum computer, the rest of us are going to get Vera Rubin's, the high end one of those, because that becomes the mass produced
Well,
dismissed thing.
that's my good enough theory. Like the
Yes.
reason I say good enough is because if you concentrate not on what the magical new thing is, which is always the next best thing, it becomes so big, and you just concentrate on what can I do with what I have.
Right.
And AI has that ability. Like you don't need to get a really high level of value out of AI as it exists today. You don't need a full on cloud server worth, this crazy like data center. Like
Nope.
you can make a useful thing in a home computing setting. There's a couple comments that I just want to comment. Somebody, John Katz said, I believe we can use blockchain to make it possible to vote by phone. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like blockchain has the ability to basically be like a pretty secure voting mechanism. Right. That's a great example of something that blockchain can do, which is not crypto. I mean, even if crypto becomes currency, the problem with crypto isn't blockchain. It's that as a currency, it's being used for
too easily manipulated
black market. Yeah.
Right.
And then I saw one other thing about the prices, like if it's not a Simon Bird, if it's not a bubble, then they better start ramping up chip making and bring back down prices. So like, there's problems brewing, and they're effectively supply chain problems. For instance, RAM is extremely expensive right now.
Right.
And so at some point, if the top end of the monster, the head of the monster is like sucking up all the resources, and you don't have the feet of the monster, like us people who have personal computers, we can't buy personal computers anymore because the components are so expensive. There will be a readjustment. And that readjustment is either prices just collapse because they have no other choice, or some new technology comes out that either makes the head do it differently, so that all the RAM becomes, in this case, RAM obsolete, becomes available to everybody else on the low end, built
into the CPU.
Or the other way around. Like you just eliminate the need for RAM, which I know sounds crazy, but that's how these things work. The paradigm shifts will happen, and they have to happen along the way for this stuff to work.
For those of us that have often had to zap our PRAM over the years, this might sound
I don't want to hear about
good.
Your PRAM.
Yes, you do.
Nice.
No, I don't.
Nice. Not thrilling, but nice.
I was looking for a clip that explained your idea of we all live in a neighborhood.
What a bunch of hippy-dippy baloney.
All right, there you go. So
Bald Dano said, Rob Glenn, PS6 is going to be $2,000. Exactly. And then when PS6 comes out and it's $2,000 and they don't sell enough of them, then PS6 isn't a product, right?
Yeah, right.
And so something changes. Like when they can't make a product and make a profit, then they change and they make a different product, or they figure out a different way to make it cheaper, right?
Right.
So these things they even themselves out. They have to.
Right. But don't worry, everybody. We've got a genius in charge of everything who knows more about AI than AI knows about itself. He doesn't at all look like hammered shit right now. Here's the thing I want to talk to you about today, Rob Glenn.
Let's do it.
This little statement from everybody's favorite used Cybertruck salesman, Elon Musk. We have entered the singularity.
Okay.
Now, he said again, there's been 3 tweets on this. We've entered the singularity. We're on the horizon of the singularity, and the singularity will happen this year. He said all 3 of those statements in like no particular order, which you would think there would be a direction. You know what I mean? It'll happen this year. So, we're on the horizon, and then we are in it. That seems to be when time flows forward. Maybe he's quantum tweeting, and time is folding on itself or some shit or whatever. But
so before we go too deep into this, I just asked our friend Gemini, what is the singularity? I think this is really important because one, most people don't know what what that term even means, and I don't even think Musk does, because he probably just makes it up as he goes. Well, he probably knows what the proper definition of it is, but I would say that he's using a marketing term like AI, like he's going to slap this. So in his mind,
he's going to name something Singularity X very soon.
I think in his mind, AI has a path, like it's got this like end spot, and this end spot is singularity. and he wants everybody to think that he's gotten to the next place. So
Right.
that's how I would characterize what he just said. But anyway, so Gemini says the singularity is a hypothetical future point when technological growth, especially in artificial intelligence, accelerates so rapidly that it surpasses human control and comprehension, leading to unpredictable fundamental changes in civilization, potentially involving superintelligence, human AI merging, or profound societal transformation. So you could argue that profound societal transformation is happening, and not because of AI,
Right.
but because of social media,
Sure.
because of technology before AI even got here.
Mhm.
So at any rate, what does he back up any of that with any like other thought about why
No,
he
I
thinks
think
that?
I'll tell you exactly why he's doing it and what context he's doing it is that he wants everybody to think that he knows this because X is, XAI
Oh,
is in the process
doing
of,
something that he's about to
we're
tell us, some
almost
secret
there.
thing.
You're
Yeah, we
welcome.
got
Right.
it.
That I swear to God, that's what he's talking about.
Yes.
It's a sales pitch, like you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. In my opinion, about the singularity is who fucking cares? Like
Right.
it's whatever it is. Like there's this
Yes.
thing that's happening, deal with it, and it doesn't matter what name you give it. It's
Right.
happening, so deal with it, right?
Right, and also once it happens, here's the okay. So this is what everybody's afraid of. And this is I see this. Let me bring up. I'm going to play a little piece of video. We don't normally, when you're on the show, do what I do in the regular show. Which, by the way, this afternoon everybody will be about an hour late because I have to run a rather important errand this afternoon, and I may not be back in time for it. And it's just it is definitely. Like it charts. It's very important as to why we would want to do this. And
By the way,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
really like your facial hair.
Oh, thanks.
It looks very good on you.
Thank you. Summer thinks that I look like an evil genius, which I was like, okay, that'll do. She
Okay,
goes, it's
well,
good. It frames your face. You look like an evil genius. And I'm like, I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean the square, it's like squaring off your jaw for
Yeah,
sure.
you can see it more.
I mean, like visually, that's the
Yeah. It accents it's shading it properly or something. All right.
yeah, there you go. I was
Yes.
thinking of contrast.
Contouring, yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so this, I'm sure you're probably, I don't even have to tell you, you're probably a big old viewer of the 6-7 project.
Gosh,
This dude.
is that really what it's called? The 6-7 project?
No, it's 3 of 7 project.
Oh,
I call
that's
him
your
the
joke.
6. Yeah, I
Okay.
call him the 6-7 project. Listen here, he sounds a little bit too much like Hank Hill for everybody's taste. Just
I've
work on
seen
it.
you have him
Yeah.
on your show.
Okay, so
that's
yeah,
all
yeah.
I've ever seen.
So the title of this one, you're gonna love this: Artificial Intelligence Replacing the Bible. And this is yeah. So we'll catch a couple seconds of this and we'll respond.
Okay.
So I think it's obvious that this AI will be used at some point in the future to help humanity.
And these 2 boys who painted my cat's butt to run around the neighborhood like hooligans, skipping school.
Determine what is right and what is wrong morally. I think there will be a strong case made that because we can input data from history, from all different cultures and from all different religions
We're going to have Sharia AI.
into the framework of AI, that it will then be able to deduce the closest possible thing to truth for humanity. And I think that will be, even now, widely accepted. When I say widely accepted, don't mean that there's no one that would push back against that.
Of course, I've seen Johnny Mnemonic. There will obviously be rebels.
I mean, the majority of people would accept that this tool that we are developing can help humanity reach another level by giving us the right answers to what is right and what is wrong morally.
I'm sure, Rob, I'm sure this is making your blood boil the same way it is mine. Like, is this so aggravating? But yeah.
All right.
It doesn't make my blood boil. It just,
Okay.
It's a pretty astounding thing to think about, because what happens if that happens? That would mean that...
All right. Okay. You get the idea. Like, we don't need. He's pontificating, and largely you can tell by his body posture and his lack of eye contact with the camera, which he normally talks to directly, that he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about and needs filler video that will scare the shit out of his dumbass viewers. And the idea that it'll decide what's right and wrong is, I think, in many ways not the problem. The problem would be is that humans decide what is right and wrong. In the case of somebody like Donald Trump, it might makes right, or Vladimir Putin. The thing is about how it would be carried out, I guess, is the genuine fear. If you send, a bunch of T-1000s after people, I think is the concern. Kill all those people. They're the bad ones. It's not that it makes the decisions for us. It's that once we make our decisions, they're cheaper and easier to make than ever, and you can make them at arm's length, and you don't have to send soldiers into harm's way and shit like that. I think would be the bigger fear. But he's worried about it just taking over religion.
Well, I mean, like, it's whenever looking for an answer moving forward, most of us look backwards to find reasons or answers, or the answer to the question is looking backwards so that we know what to do going forwards, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
So in the terms of the Bible in general, like, you can make it say anything you want it to say if you analyze it in the right way. In many ways, I think the Republican Party has used our founding fathers and the Constitution in place of the Bible, because they've decided exactly what they think it said back then, as it relates to the things they want it to be now. So if AI was like, yeah, the Bible's totally right, dude. Everything about it, everything it says is exactly right, that guy would be like, AI all the way. Like, we're only listening to AI, right?
Yeah.
And if AI,
what would
said,
AI do?
That Bible, that's thing's totally full of shit, right? He's like, no, we got to get rid of AI, regulate it away, right? I don't believe in regulation except for AI. Right? So it, I mean, at the end of the day, like, we decide. Like, actual people are going to decide what they want to do,
right?
Like it or not. And, we've talked about it. There's many benefits to asking an AI who's got no emotional connection to anything, what it would think of a situation in a courtroom, right? Like, a lot of what we're witnessing now is like, I look at the stuff in Minnesota, and it's the same as replay in a football game. Was it a catch or was it not a catch? Right.
Right.
Like, and was it this or was it that? Was it murder? Was it defense, self-defense? Right. And anytime you get on that edge, like the football catch, it like, you're going to come into it like loaded up with background, and
right.
It's gonna send you down a certain direction. It's gonna taint what you see, right? Not to say anything about what's right or wrong in any of that. I'm just saying it looks an awful lot like, we're arguing whether there was a catch in football or not, right?
Yep.
And being a Bears fan, like Bears Packers, you see a lot of that stuff, right?
Yep.
Like,
totally.
Anyway, so AI does have the ability. You could use AI in a court case to analyze all the information and give what effectively would be, in theory, if done right, not like an opinion which was not emotionally driven, right? But then whether you put it in the hands of the AI or you put it in the hands of the judge or you put it in the hands of the jury, that's the human choice, right? Like, so we choose what to do about that answer after you. So, and Lauren King says, "Sorry, Rob, Glenn, F the Bears."
Ouch! All right,
That's all right. We won the game, so we're still playing. And
that's right. We're in. Fingers crossed. Right. So real quick, okay. So from the singularity standpoint, and this kind of brings into where this guy's panic is coming from, is that they're waiting for this horse that they're barely holding on to in their head to snap its reins and ride off, and you're sitting on the back of this fucking thing riding bareback blind into the horizon. And so that's where this fear comes from. And the singularity, by and large, can be defined when AI, as we understand it, everybody wants to call it AGI or ASI, advanced superintelligence or advanced general intelligence, can perform generalized human tasks better than the average human or the most well-trained human. I'll go with the ASI version of it. The most well-trained human. It can do math better than an Oxford scientist. It can do philosophy better than a philosophy professor at Northwestern. It can, it does all of those at once. It can do all of those for everything. And then it is recursively self-improving, meaning that like the Claude, for example, which is last name Balls, as my dad would say, is 4.5. Then the new coding thing, they have a new tool called CoWork, which will automate all of your white collar work, all of your filing, all of your legal stuff. Like, it's extraordinary. It's $200 a month right now, which means it will cost nothing in about 6 months, or some version of it will cost nothing in about 6 months. But CoWork, the entire structure of that agentic substructure of Claude, was coded by Claude in the coding thing. It was vibe coded. It was a request. It was completely coded within it. Yes,
by employees of
Anthropic, right?
I was thinking agentic, but I couldn't think of it. Anthropic.
Yeah,
but yes. Supposedly it was only 4 people that did it.
Yes, and it was done on request. And if you told the thing, keep building, like, here's a piece of software, we need this, keep iterating this until it works, and then use the new version to iterate a better version of it. That's what we're talking about. That's the recursive improvement part of it, and that's where they're afraid of, like, what's effectively runaway acceleration, where it will just, like, once it can fix itself and improve itself, then we're in the gray slime problem, which is then, like, make this material we can replace concrete with, and then it never stops because it's always trying to improve the concrete. So it has this device that it creates, and in the creation of that device, it just oozes gray shit out into the thing until the earth is full of gray concrete. And that's the fear on a data level that comes with this. So runaway acceleration caused by recursive improvement, that's based in this idea that it reaches a point where it can it can do any generalized area better than a master of that area, PhD level quality or whatever. And so that first step, or the third in this case, that piece, it can do things generally better than any expert in an area. I think that's what he's defining the singularity as one element. Because
today.
Yes, right. That's why he thinks it's already there. Because he's convinced it's that good. He's also convinced, the interesting thing is, the same people that are convinced that the singularity is already here because AGI exists, because it can already do most jobs better than other people, like it's smarter than a college professor, think college professors are full of shit. And so if you think it like RFK's,
so many of these,
they've lowered their opinion of the quality of people and their expertise so much that they overvalue where AI is, because they've undervalued what real expertise is. They think they don't believe it.
Yeah, I heard a pretty decent explanation of this CoWork thing, or the way that, the story of how CoWork was developed.
Yeah.
They talked about the fact that because it was so expensive to go develop what CoWork is, you would have to get a team of developers, start them on the thing. And if you started it and made it after spending that much time and money, and then you were wrong, you just wasted all that time and money, right? So what companies have done for a long time now is they've developed processes to, like, decide what to do. Mm-hmm. And so they'll spend a ton of time and a ton of energy and people and manpower and all that,
right,
just coming up with a plan for how to make co-work. It would be this product definition. And it would tell you exactly everything it could possibly do, right? And so a ton of time is spent doing that. And then they go, then now here's what we defined it as. Now go make it.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that we have to understand now is that the paradigm shift is going to be in, you don't have to think about making it anymore, because making it doesn't cost any money.
Right.
So you don't have to plan. You don't have to spend all your time and energy planning. You just have to spend you could shift it to spending your time and money deciding what would be profitable to make or what would actually work. Right. So let's say this thing came out and it was garbage. Right.
Yeah.
They're like, so what? It took 4 days and an AI,
right? We'll
try it again. Give us 4 more days, right? Like give us 8 more days, right? We'll figure something out. So it's not that it happened, it's that it happened differently. And the different way it happened, companies are not structured to do. They have to rethink how they go about developing products and things like that. That's one. And then the second thing is, like, so what? Like, a piece of software happened really fast. Like, what does that do? It basically makes a whole bunch of companies that make a whole bunch of money on the stock market obsolete, because you don't need their software anymore.
Right.
So one of the pushbacks on this is basically like a lot of like capital sitting in places where maybe it doesn't have to be there anymore. It's got to be in this new place, and we don't know what that new place is. And that's really scary, just like the singularity, right? The unknown future of working and making stuff is just as scary as the singularity, the AI becoming human and killing us all, right?
Right.
So I feel like the AI becoming human and killing us all is just displacing the fear of the reality, which is we're going to have to start thinking about cars versus horses, or, we're going to have to start thinking about what's the next thing.
Yeah.
Really fast here.
Well, yeah, and I think that is the biggest thing. The runaway acceleration is the big fear point that a lot of people have, is like they don't feel like they have a grip on what this stuff does already. Imagine if it gets away with itself and it starts self-replicating and all that kind of stuff. And then of course the next thing it does is have a fucking Leeloo Dallas multi-pass moment where it wakes up and decides that human beings are the biggest drag on the environment, because there's a bunch of nihilistic, self-involved dickheads who believe that for a long time, and they have an outsized voice inside certain Hollywood windows.
What a bunch of hippy-dippy baloney.
Right.
I think that the reason why what you just said is true is because it's being sold as something it's not.
Right.
And we're making it in our mind something it's not, meaning we're not actually looking at what it is. Like, we're not wrapping our head around what it actually is. And until we do that, it's always going to seem scary. So like, really, I think the way to like de-escalate this situation is being truthful about how it's working and what it's doing.
Right.
And because there's just so much garbage and fluff out there, and just like marketing garbage that is like Musk here saying that it's the singularity. It's not the singularity by any means. By
but it's
the
good enough.
definition that I just read anyway.
It's the Rob Glenn singularity, which is like at a certain point, like most of it. I have 2 screw guns, for example. I have a regular screw gun that you can adjust the strength of its torque from 1 to drill, right? It's that whole thing. And you can, and that way you don't, if you're dealing with something delicate, you set it on 1, and before it allows you to punch a hole in whatever you're working in, it will start clicking and it will lose traction in its torque. Okay. And then I have a driving screw gun that can be used for bolts into concrete or walls. And it is, so it not only drills, but it also vibrates slightly as it goes in. It has like this punching effect. Most people don't need both, right? Most people are just fine with the one that has a lot of variability in it and used for mostly household stuff. And most people wouldn't even know half the time that the other one even exists, because it doesn't come up. And I think there's a ton of these tools that are that regular screw gun that have, enough variability and enough work that it fixes for you that at a certain point, it's like all the drop down menus in fucking Adobe Photoshop. You're like, good Lord, like who the hell digs in this?
There's like 50 different ways to change colors in Photoshop, and on your iPhone, you just say, I want it to be old. I want it to look older. I want it to look younger. I want it to look like space. Like, so it's the tools in Photoshop that you could like manipulate them scientifically. And then there's a sort of, like plain language of, I want it bluer. I want it more red. I've been thinking about this in a slightly different way than what you just described. And that is going to like the assistant. So like the dream is, or, the agentic kind of talk is that, we've talked about it here. The AI is going to buy you airline tickets, right? I'm going to go on a trip and it just go buy me airline tickets, right? Yeah. If you think about, if you actually had an assistant doing that job, like you would be having them do it instead of you because you didn't have the time, let's say. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about for a second why you don't have the time. And that is because you go to buy a ticket, and when you get to the website, you don't know what your password is. So you got to go look up your password. And you don't know, what time the meeting is. So you got to go look up the time. And so what I'm getting at is there's a lot of little things that keep you from getting into that process. And then you just stop and you're frustrated and you hate the process. But there's probably parts of the process that if all of those things that caused you to stop weren't there, you probably would enjoy. Like picking which seat you wanted, or, like if you had a choice on the food, stuff like that. So what I like to try to think of AI as, AI doesn't need to go buy the damn ticket. What AI could be or should be used for is to get rid of all the stuff that you should just be able to recall like this. Right. So log me on to American.com. Yeah. That statement should come along with it the knowledge of what the URL was for American.com, which is probably AA.com. It should come along with what your login and password are. It should come in with what your frequent flyer number is. All the things that you just that just go along with that statement. Boom. If you were planning a trip and you got straight to selecting a seat and a time, then that's what the assistant does. Because the assistant probably is like, I did all these things and now I got here. And do you want to sit in the middle or do you want to sit on the thing? Like the assistant would still come back to you and interface with you to get your choices, right? So AI is not, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to redefine or actually define what an assistant is. Right. And AI is totally capable of doing that without ever logging into the thing for you or without ever going off and hitting go on the credit card. And if you multiply that across a lot of other things, like in my work, like when I bring up a new project, I'm like, where did I put that file again? Yeah. What folder is it in? Like, and all I want to say is, hey, what that thing that I made in Photoshop that was kind of green, right? Like if my AI assistant could find what I actually meant when I use contextual language, it would save me countless hours every single time getting up and going up, getting into the process and getting up to speed. So I think that's what an assistant actually is. But that's not how we talk about AI assistants. We talk about it as, these magical things that are just going to make your life easier. But we haven't defined what makes our life easier. See what I'm driving at? Yeah, absolutely. So I want to show something. This is Anthropic's ad. They dropped this 3 days ago for co-work. This is the thing. And this was, again, the important thing is it was completely coded inside the AI that they have. So they created a piece of software that was, designed and birthed inside their own there. And then also, by the way, this is not an ad for
co-work. I don't get any money from any of these sites. Neither Rob or I do. I subscribe to almost all of them because I want to see what they're available. I don't have the pro version of anything. I just use the plus or I have the pro version, but I don't have like the $100 a month version of any of these. Like I just use the $20 a month version. I don't know why they're playing this. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna get this AI music. I hope, if I don't get a disruption or a copyright strike. Okay, again, that's a research preview of what Cowork will do or whatever. And it's basically like, organize my goddamn desktop. This is a mess, which I'm sure we could all use. And if we could teach a person, like an assistant, do this, like, hey, can you organize my financial files into one folder? I keep downloading stuff or all my screenshots in one thing. There are already tools, kind of to your point. If you log into American Airlines or whatever, if you fly as much as a touring stand-up comedian does, your frequent flyer number and your preferences are already loaded into a lot of these sites. Interestingly enough, they came up with those things a long time ago to just kind of store, you'd rather have a window seat because you're one of those assholes who sleeps up against the hull of the plane everywhere he goes. And, you have a food preference if you're, vegan chicken or fish or beef or whatever it is. So you can put those things in there. So the AI doesn't even have to know that stuff anymore. And it kind of goes to our localized AI thing. There's so much data collection that already occurs.
Well, let me pause you there for a second, because what you just described, that those preferences exist only at the one airline that you put them in.
Yes.
So they exist with the vendor, not with you. True. And so what AI does is it would allow you to keep those preferences attached to you. And then when given a question that isn't exactly the same question, meaning which seat do you prefer, window, aisle, or center? Like, what if it's asked slightly differently by United Airlines, right? Mm-hmm. And so what AI is capable of doing is contextually, this is what is asking. I know you like a window. I'll pick whatever the answer that closest is to windows. So that's the difference between AI. Is it exists with you and not with the place you're buying the thing from, if you will. Right.
But you also have, what I'm saying is like, I use Expedia, for example, most of the time,
right?
And it has all of my stuff stored for each of those airlines and stuff. And there's limitations on what it can do. But the next step would be the difficult one where the agent would run into. It would have some value for this in that you go from Expedia or Travelocity or whatever you're using in your booked stuff, and you go to the actual airline to check in. Sometimes you can check in within Expedia or Travelocity. Sometimes you have to go outside to the site, like Southwest is that way. And then once you do that, the extra information, check if it were to check to make sure that your TSA number is loaded in there, so your TSA pre is taken care of, so you don't have to check that box every time you go, that it automatically understands what you prefer, or it goes, oh, by the way, we had to arrange this so your flight one way is an airline that you do use all the time, your flight, your transfer flight is another airline you've never used before, so we can go into their website and go, okay, using what you like from all your other stuff and judging from everything you get, you like a window seat, fish, and you'd rather have leg room in an emergency aisle, or whatever, than sit in the back of the plane near the shitter. That kind of stuff. It can extrapolate those kind of things and act as a personal assistant. It's very much, I personally think what we're headed towards, and the comfort I have with it, is more like Jarvis or Friday in the later Iron Man storyline. But there's this joke about Pepper Potts in the first Iron Man one, where she goes, he goes, I got this, whatever. She goes, I can handle this. And she goes, I don't think you can tie your shoes without me. And he goes, I'm pretty sure I could figure it out as an engineer. And she goes, or something along those lines. And she goes, oh yeah, what's your social security number? And he goes, 3. She's like, you're missing a couple of numbers there. That's how much reliance he has on her, so that he can stay focused on what he's doing, right?
Exactly.
That he outsources. Yes, he does the stuff he loves. He's tinkering on his cars and building robotic stuff and whatever, doing Stark Industry stuff, and all that other stuff. Like most people in high positions, they outsource that to an assistant, which is a human being. And in this case, most of us, could not afford a human being that would live with us 24 hours a day, that if we woke up, called them in the middle of the night, and we're like, hey, make note of this, they would go, oh, shit, right? But an AI won't, right? That's the thing.
Yeah, it's all these like little things. Like I'm developing something for myself that is exactly focused on that. So like anything that keeps me from doing the thing that I should be doing that's most productive, I try to offload somehow onto it.
Sure.
And as you think about it that way, and you think about what is, like, it's the same thing as working with an assistant. Like, what does an assistant need to know to actually make that choice for me? Like, and so if you think about having a local AI that's good enough to do that, then you don't need to go out into these $200 a month cloud type places,
right?
If that's all you're doing with it. In fact, like I almost think that that once we kind of figure out those actual uses, like the uses that are like beneficial to other people, to everybody, it's going to actually make the cloud versions not as valuable.
Yes, I agree. Because they're not going to take all this energy and all this kind of stuff. That's what like giant corporations or governments will have to use, maybe because of the amount of crunching they'll have to do. But the interpersonal AIs that help you run your life can already basically fit on your phone. That's where the new Gemini and the new partnership that Apple just did with Google is about. I do have a question in a second that's on the panic range, which I think we should address, from viewers.
Real quick, like the thing that is heavily misunderstood is that there's memory. The analogy I would give is it's literally sending everything it knows about you every time that you've allowed. So like it'd be like you're going down the street to get some groceries, and at first in your chat you just drive your car or you walk, but by the time you're like 6 months in, it's like got to take a whole cargo ship full of information every time you go to the store, every single time you go to the store, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why these models have grown so big, because the only possible way for them to feel as if they have memory is to send shit tons of data back and forth. And so the key is not to just keep growing so that everything can always be sent every time. The key is to figure out how to get the same quality of answer with a lot less information moving each time. It'd be like having, a slow internet connection versus a really fast one, getting the same amount of download speed, I guess. I don't know. Sorry. So what's the question?
Okay. So this would be, this is, I understand this is a generalized sentiment we hear all the time about this. Okay, yeah. So this is Denise. I don't know how we're going to afford food if our jobs have been taken over. Get it? I'm not getting on board. I guess I'm not on board. I don't understand this. I don't know why you guys like this. Okay. So okay. Well, on the one hand, it isn't
like
about
the
liking
idea.
it.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of people not being able to afford food by any means.
Right. But what I would, no.
About.
That's not what we're talking about at all. But it's a little bit like the internet and going, what are, are we still going to have books once the internet takes off? Everybody said no. And then, of course, now books are making a resurgence and that kind of stuff. In this particular case, here's what I would say is that the jobs that will be taken first are the drudgery jobs. And a big portion of those drudgery jobs are food production. That if you're going to watch for something where, technology, I keep saying this, technology is always deflationary. It always brings costs down because that is the very nature of the product itself. that Moore's law or the advancements in computers, you'll always get faster, lighter, cheaper every single time, because that's the goal. Because the product itself, if it was just one giant supercomputer sitting in somebody's room, wouldn't have any value, because it would have no one to connect to, and it doesn't have any value in its reach. But personal computers and the kind of chips we're talking about and all that kind of stuff really only have value in their ubiquity, that everybody's able to get access to it, that everybody's on board by and large. And I know we're a couple minutes over, so I got to let you go. But I want to hear your take on this on our way out the door. But I think the jobs that provide us with food and food, construction jobs, those kind of things, those are the first things you will try to automate away or find solutions for before anything else. So that food, the cost of food, is one of the things that you would, as a non-negotiable necessity, that's one of the things you would seek to bring down the cost of first, as opposed to optional jobs that some people use and some people don't. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, in effect, that's what the market would, in theory, be doing. And if applied to any like commodity or any produced product that you must have, in theory, if you bring down the cost to produce that thing, deliver that thing, whatever that is, then that actually is something that will bring down costs. So in theory, if you completely automated the entire food production process, then the cost of food should either stay that way for the rest of time or go down. The rest of time, you know what I mean? Like but right now, the thing that makes food more variable is the environment, like the scarcity of it due to whether it grew or not, or if it's there or not.
Yeah,
and
or
the cost,
or the availability of fertilizer and stuff like that.
Yeah, or the cost to get it out of the ground and get it to the grocery store, if that's what it is, or a cow, like raise a cow, butcher a cow, get it to the store, those things. And so again, if you take labor out of those things, labor is the most expensive part of almost any process. So it should come down, absolutely. And so then you get yourself caught in this loop, because it's like, well, if the jobs go away, who works the jobs? How do you get money? Then how do you afford the food, right? And those, like, instead of figuring out how to regulate, well, on top of figuring out how to regulate AI so that it's used for good things and not to harm people, we should also be figuring out what to do with people, how to handle the fact that people's jobs are changing dramatically,
right?
And deal with that.
I've said for a while, and I know you got to go, but and I appreciate you, Rob Glenn, Root Design, Chicago. Thank you for being with us today. But I would say that the United States has already done this. We have already automated away a lot of uncomfortable and unfavorable jobs, painful jobs, boring jobs, low-paying jobs, drudgery. We've just done it to poor immigrants under the table or foreign workers who work for $2 a week. That's what we've done. So the idea that a robot would do it instead of us, exploiting a human being for it is absurd. Most people aren't doing these jobs these days, in the United States anyways. The question is, where does it go worldwide? What do those countries do? Do they advance to a more middle-class experience because that automation slowly but surely, like all technology, spreads to those countries? So India and Africa and places like that adopt those systems eventually so that their people have a similar quality of life? Perhaps. What's the time scale on that? That's a long time.
I mean, if just take us as U.S. centric explanation in this case, like a company either chooses to either manufacture something here or manufacture something in Asia, let's say,
right?
And the cost in Asia is what it is, and the cost here is what it is, and they choose Asia because it's less there than it is here. And that comes with all the caveats that you just said. If then automation makes it the same price here as it is there, then the job just left Asia and came here.
Right.
It didn't get given to a U.S. employee. It got given to a robot, let's say, or it was accomplished by a robot. What you've done in that just small scenario is you haven't taken away a U.S. job. You've taken away an Asian job.
Yep.
And so Asia, in theory, China is supported by its exports because it's such a high export nation. When its exports go down, it will then have to figure out how to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in our case, we're not figuring out how to deal with the loss of job because the job was never here. Mm-hmm. We're figuring out how to deal with the change in value of the thing that is being made.
Right.
And so, you start to like break down healthcare costs, food costs, like, when we talked a little bit about, we talk about like prices in general, but inflation and stuff like that, cost of living is like weighted down heavily by just a few things, healthcare, food, automobiles. So as you start taking the big ones off the list, like it gets much more affordable pretty quick, but they're big problems to take those initial things off the list. Right.
Right. And then the people who are working or whatever, the price of there might be an adjustment in people's wages because your dollar goes further as they start to, reprice things downward over time. And they'll do that with interest rates, by and large, the same way you do, quantitative tightening will be the way that you'll slowly tighten up the money supply. But the idea that AI is going to take everybody's job and then nobody will have any salary, so what are they going to buy food with is not the issue. Because again, by and large, the companies that are going to race towards automation first or those kind of things are the companies that have must-have products that can that have a very small margin of profit, like groceries, like foodstuffs, which is about 2%. Farmers, we talked about this with tractors moving in, this, and Operation Wetback and removing the Mexicans the men that were working here in the country. That's what's happening with this immigration push as far as Trump's. Curtis Yarvin and Peter Thiel are behind this purge of immigrants almost as much and having to do with the economics of immigrant labor as much as Trump and Stephen Miller's racism. It's almost 1-to-1 in the motivation factor behind it. If anybody's just following Otis at this point, it's Stephen Miller and Donald Trump listening to Curtis Yarvin and Peter Thiel. Because they just want these people out of here because they want to push automation as fast as possible. And you won't adopt unless you have to. If you can still get cheaper workers that already can do the job and it's easier to just yell at somebody and I don't have to subscribe to it. If I'm sick of this work, I can just fire him or call DHS on my own worker if he threatens me or does anything wrong. That still works right now for a lot of these assholes. So what's and until they don't have that as an option, they're not going to move on to a big, complicated computer system, running a bunch of robots that are picking apples all over the orchard. They just aren't. But if you run out all those people and they just aren't there, and that the next 10 years, no matter who's in office, the border's going to be shut tight for the most part, you're going to invest. You're going to invest in the robotics. Whatever company comes along to sell you, like, hey, man, you're going to need this apple picker. There's nothing, they're getting rid of all your apple pickers. That's what's happening. And the price on that, there'll be a slight evening out of rise in prices as they invest in new machinery. But the other side of it is that the price will continue to go down and down and down. And as you remove pesticides and those kind of things, because you have organics, because you've got lasers shooting all the pests and all that kind of stuff, and that's what they're selling. That's what it was at CES. I saw this fucking, wheat harvester that was as big as a 2-story house. That can do the work of 40 people. That's what's going on. And it isn't that, and those are the jobs we don't have enough people for anyways. That's why we're importing them. And it's also why they get treated like shit. Because it's such drudgery, if they had a voice, they'd never do it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think
yeah.
the possible bigger impact might be like literally picking weeds. Like if you sent a bunch of Atlas robots into a field, you don't
Yeah.
need Roundup anymore.
Right.
And so it would actually cost you more to do that than spraying Roundup, but you get health benefits out of it.
Well, and you could sell that and raise the cost of the product, even if the cost of the product didn't go up.
Exactly. Yeah. And, our entire economy, news, everything is based on growth, right? So like the idea that prices are going to come down, it's not going to come down. The only thing that can happen is they stop going up. And that's even considered bad, right? So like the thing that's crazy to me is that, this whole affordability stuff, like really like the only thing that you could possibly do is try to increase wages, so that you then can purchase the things that haven't gone down. But like this tariff thing, like if no matter what the Supreme Court does, whether they say tariffs are good or bad or legal or refunded or whatever, prices are going to stay the same.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to reduce them. In fact, their excuse, they'll come up with an excuse why they won't go down if they're given a refund and they're claimed to be illegal. But if they're claimed to not be, they'll also have an excuse why they can't come down and they have to go up.
Right.
Right. Because we just had to fund all of this stuff and we haven't been charging you all of the
We've been eating the losses since the beginning of the shit, and it cost us so much extra money beyond what our normal cost is. So I wanted to show everybody this. This is the Laser Weeder G2. This is one of the devices that's already available on the market. And what it does is it has a laser that can spot the difference. You program in what plant you're growing and what plants you don't want. Basically, anything that isn't corn gets zapped with a laser in the dirt. And and then the back of it has a little water sprayer in case, so there's no fire or anything. But it literally destroys pests and invasive weeds in there. That's not Roundup. This replaces Roundup, and it replaces Roundup with something that is completely organic, fire, right? And this is what I'm talking about. And what's in it? 2 NVIDIA GPUs for advanced image processing. That's where it is. There you go.
You got to see the bug, recognize it's a bug, aim at the bug, and fire.
That's
exactly what you got to do, and hit the bug.
It works day and night. It's got 240 watt lasers, 3 high resolution cameras with advanced optics. It shoots it with this laser right in the root. Essentially, it can burn the root of it. 24 hours later, 48 hours later, 72 hours later. That's what happens to the plant. And it clears the area before you start planting. 80% weed control cost reduction per year. 99% of weeds killed. 100% specialty crop models. This is and 100% organic. No more Roundup. No more pesticides. That's what's happening. Now, the reason we have pesticides is because you could not have a human being walking around with a fucking pair of toenail clippers snipping every plant like this thing is doing one at a time.
Or literally hand picking weeds.
Exactly. Pulling weeds.
It was a cost. It was a way to drop the cost of food because your yield was higher because you didn't have to worry about any weeds taking over a field, and you didn't have to spend money for someone to come out and literally pick the weeds or deal with
That's right.
in whatever way that you dealt with it.
So this is why I'm bullish on this part of it, because you could, in theory, over the next 5 to 10 years, eliminate pesticides entirely.
Yeah, and so now you got a robot walking around with a laser beam that can kill bugs, and everybody's brain automatically goes, well, what if that robot leaves the field, comes to my house, and shoots me in the eye with their laser, right? Kills the whole town, right?
Right.
And so like every single one of these things has the good and the bad.
Yes.
And we as a society have to pressure ourselves essentially to do the good and not the bad. But you can't keep the bad from ever happening because the technology is all the same, right?
Right.
Anything that you build that's good can be used bad. It's been that way since the beginning of time. So
right.
So like that's a different job. It's
Yeah.
like you can't just stop it all from happening. You got to come up with a better way to convince people to only do the good, I
That's
guess,
right.
or regulate it or have rules based. I mean, now's a difficult time to be talking about that because things seem kind of a little out to lunch, but
Sure.
Well,
and also, like we'll cover this in the coming days, but eventually, a home EMP device like that looks like a flashlight that kills electronics will be your fire extinguisher.
could be, absolutely.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean, you just pointed it at the robot and just like that, and the EMP pulse from it would fry its internal circuitry. That's it. And could somebody destroy your property with one of those things? Absolutely.
Yes.
But it's
So
still
that's
illegal.
the other problem is
Still illegal. Same thing if they would fucking cut the brake lines on your car. It's still, we have destruction
And
of
then-
property laws that fit that. Anyways, we have
Well, then
this.
we find ourselves in the exact same spot. Are you being defensive with it or offensive with it?
Right.
And then we get right.
Whoops. Lost you for a second. Is he coming back? I hope so. Is he there? Damn it. Sometimes it just freezes up. This is the sign that we went over. That's the issue. Hold on one second. I'll go back to me as he comes back in. Rob, you might want to... okay, he's reconnecting. Give me 1 second. Hit the like, share the show, by the way, chat room. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. Yeah, there he is again. We'll come back in. And sorry, welcome back. There's always that one little freeze.
Just
we went way
locked up.
over
There's
it.
always that one time.
Yep, we went way over anyways. I think that was just
That's
tapping
right.
up so I can let you have your day back. Thank you for being on. I appreciate this conversation, and it will be ongoing. I am going to... I'm not going to try out co-work, obviously, but between now and next week, what I'm going to try to do is automate one aspect of my show prep that's annoying, which is getting all my stream keys and putting them where they need to go, which is something that eats up an exorbitant amount of my time in a very stupid way. And
Yep.
would be really nice to just go button and then it does that part so that I can focus on the stories. I can focus on what I'm doing. And it's never going to be a job that I would give to another person to do because I would feel like shit asking somebody else to do that one task. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep. So I can. We should meet maybe on Tuesday.
Yes.
Let me show you what I'm working on because it'll definitely inform what you're talking about there, and it'll
perfect.
kind of get your mind wrapped around it in a different way, I think.
Lovely. I appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you, brother. And I will talk to you again soon. We'll talk on Tuesday.
Absolutely. Good to see everybody in the chat. Have a great weekend and love you, Hal. Have a good
Yeah,
week.
you too. All right. I'll talk to you later. And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Rob Glenn, Root Design, Chicago.